Pat Robertson is going to wildly flail against atheists on his show. Let's watch.
America started out like that. We honored the Bible. The Bible was the foundation of our law, the foundation of our civil society, and men and women gave assent to the Bible. Now, they didn't always follow what it said, but they agreed that was the standard. And therefore, this country was raised as honoring the Bible. How far have we come now, where we have allowed a few atheists to destroy the very foundations of our culture? And we're in danger of losing all of our freedom, because our freedom rests, ladies and gentlemen, rests on the Word of God. Make no mistake about it. If there is no God, then there is no justice, and there is no law, and there is no righteousness. God is the author of all that. And men will twist things for their own ends. You take away the Bible and you have the Nazis, and you have the communists, and you have the dictators, and you have evil.
Take away the Bible and you have the Nazis, you have the communists, you have the dictators, and you have evil. So let's go through that. Take away the Bible, you have the Nazis. Wrong. Over 90% of Nazi Germany, Christian. Hitler, Christian. Now, he was also a weird mix of what's called German mysticism, which is basically like German fairy tales that he thought were real, including the idea of the Aryan race, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed German people who were like ruling over the world and they were superior, and then on the other end of the spectrum of humanity, he thinks are the Jews, and he thought his goal was to eliminate the bad end of the spectrum and let the good end of the spectrum take over the world again. But what's clear, historically, he was raised Christian, he was Christian. On the belts of the Nazis, it said, God is with us, Gott mit uns. And even in his book, Mein Kampf, he talks about how he's doing the Lord's work. So the idea that he's not Christian is bullshit. In fact, there are pictures of members of the Catholic Church doing the Heil Hitler salute. So this idea that, well, you know, if only Christianity was around, those Nazis wouldn't have risen to power. It's the exact opposite. Over 90% of Nazi Germany was Christian. One could argue that that actually led to it. Now, I'm not arguing that, right? It could just be that they did all these violent acts and they happened to be Christian. But what's for sure is that the Christianity didn't stop it. The Christianity wasn't a positive. They are Christian and they did these atrocities. So he's wrong on that. The idea that when you get rid of the Bible, you have Stalin. Well, Stalin represented a state religion. Communism is very clearly a state religion. You're raised to believe that the dictator, the tyrant, is this great leader who's basically a demigod, and you're supposed to look up to that guy. So it was, in a way, a religious ideology that led to that kind of system. So it's not that, hey, when you have secularism, you get that. No, that's a perversion of secularism to the point where it's not secularism, it's a state religion. And then you say, oh, you have dictators. When you get rid of the Bible, you have dictators. As if dictators have not used religion to bolster themselves up. As if authoritarian leaders have not used religion to bolster themselves up. And as if the leaders themselves weren't religious. Vladimir Putin is the perfect example of this. He's a strongman leader, and he's relied heavily on the Orthodox Church in Russia, and he's exploited them and used them to gain more political power. So he's got it exactly backwards, because the reality is, hey, Pat, with the Bible, with religion, what do you get? You get the Crusades, you get the Inquisition, you get the KKK, you get jihad, you get burning witches at the stake, you get child fucking and then covering it up. You get the suppression, the outright suppression and oppression of women and gay people. And the list goes on of the evils done in the name of religion, because what happens is you suspend credulity. And you go, it's dogmatism. You go, tell me, O Holy One, I will be obedient. Whatever you say, I will do. So if you read out of your holy book, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, that you have to slaughter the infidels and kill everybody that disagrees, well, then what happens? You end up doing that, and you did that because of your religion. So there's been a lot of harm done in the name of religion, but he, of course, flips it on its head. And the scary part is when he starts saying how without God there is no law, there is no right and wrong, there is no morality. because that tells me that Pat thinks without religion, he would lose his shit and he wouldn't know how to act. He would consider killing people. He would consider raping people because he's telling you, look, without God, we're all a mess. We don't, there is no right and wrong. There is no morality. There is no law. It all comes from God. That's a scary thought, man, that there are people who exist that need that existential pillow to lay on to get themselves to not kill people. Penn Jillette has a great way of responding to this. He says, look, I'm an atheist, and when people say, well, how do you stay moral? He goes, well, I've already killed the number of people I want to kill. 0. That's not how many? You want to kill people? That's crazy, man. That's fucked up. So in a way, to cling on to your religion in this dogmatic, fundamentalist way shows that at your core, you are an immoral person. Because you're saying, if it wasn't for, punishment in the afterlife, I would probably kill people and do all these horrific things like steal, etc., etc. And then the final thing I'll say real quick, he said the Bible is the foundation of our law. That's 100% incorrect. This nation was founded as a secular nation. It was brilliant for that reason. And if the Bible was the foundation for our law, then Pat, why is the Bible mentioned 0 times in the Constitution of the United States of America? God is mentioned 0 times. Christianity is mentioned 0 times. Jesus is mentioned 0 times. The only time they mention the word religion is to say you shall not establish one. The government needs to remain neutral on issues of religion. We are a secular country, and there's no religious test for office. So again, you have it exactly backwards. The Founding Fathers, many of the Founding Fathers were deists, which means they believed in a God, but they did not believe in the God of any particular religion. They believed in the God, just a God in the sense that, okay, a God might have created everything, but then he was out. He's not reading our thoughts. He's not monitoring what we do. It wasn't that one dude, Jesus. So when he says the Bible is freedom, that just shows you his whole argument is 100% horseshit. Because even if I accept everything else he said, which I don't, the idea that the Bible gives us freedom? No, the Bible, even if you believe in it, even if you like it, even if you support it, it's not freedom to abide by it. That's an authoritarian regime. That's a theocratic regime. Follow this book and you don't have a choice to disobey this book. We need to implement laws and guidelines based off this book. Well, what a terrible country we would live in if that were the case. I mean, we would live in a country, there would be good parts. The good parts would be universal health care. Nobody's poor, right? Be very liberal economically speaking, but socially speaking, it'd be the most backwards country ever. People would have to sell their daughters off to their rapists. Stay classy. We would have to ban pork and shellfish. No more fish market. Ban barbershops. Cutting your hair is an abomination in the eyes of God. Shaving your face is an abomination in the eyes of God. Gillette, bye-bye. Your product is done completely. Women would be forced to sleep outside of their own house when they're on their period. I mean, you can never implement a truly biblical system because that would be fucking crazy. And again, it would be the opposite of freedom. Freedom is doing what one pleases without external constraints. So as long as you're being nonviolent, you're allowed to do whatever you want. The Bible, no. They advocate, again, quite clearly the opposite of that.